Jeff Oden talks to Susan West about his early days as a Hatteras Island commercial fisherman. Do you remember your first commercial fishing job, or when you first got paid?
I remember first time I went out, when I got out of college in Southport, and there I kind of got befriended a guy, a shrimper from Southport, and he kind of got me the notion in my head to go fishing. And I ended up back here, after about 2 years, and one day Wayne Miller decided, well, come on. He just bought a boat, and he was out king mackerel fishing, and so I went out with him, and that pretty much sealed the deal right there. That was too much fun to get paid for and not want to be a part of it. So Wayne had about a 26-foot Billy Holton built boat.
Was he experienced?
He'd done it a year or so. And back then we were all using hand lines instead of the down riggers and electromates that we have now. And we were old school. And I was definitely hooked. I was still, at that time I was a welder on the state dredge down in the inlet there where they build the islands, and I kept seeing the boats going and coming all day, and just pretty much made up my mind that was where I was going. So, and shortly after that, I ended up saving enough money and got a little loan from my parents. That was my father. He said, "You're going to starve to death," because he'd watched all the old fishermen, of his day. They essentially, they had 2 or 3 things they could do. They'd go out drop netting, and in their day, they didn't even have a bottom machine to find the fish. Or they could go long hauling or pound netting. At various times, as fisheries have always done, they'd ebb and flow, and sometimes it'd be good, and sometimes they'd be heading for the Coast Guard or whatever, just trying to find another avenue to make a living. But it made me a little loan, and I ended up buying a little DC boat, Buddy Kennedy, and it's still here. Shelton Willis still has it. It's a little blue boat down there, one of the prettiest boats in the creek to this day. And because it's just got the Carolina flair in it. Buddy Kennedy, nobody will argue with the fact that he probably builds one of the prettiest Carolina-style boats around. There are many of them still sailing here. And actually, he also built my second boat. That was one he built for himself to crab with. And started using that thing also to crab, plus drop net. And back then, we didn't have net reels. We were pulling by hand. And
what year are we talking
that was
about?
76, 77.
So you didn't have net reels?
No net reels back then. So.
When did net reels become used
there was
here?
one big bill that actually gotten one a few years, right around that time frame, and I think he put it on the Albatross, and I was fishing with that. He got it from Sea Grant, and being a welder, it didn't take me long to see the light, and ended up building one for myself. And actually, I never got around to doing it the 2 years I had the boat that Shelton now has. It was too small for one, actually. There was just no room in it. Ended up pulling by hand with that for 2 years. Then I got the Miss Marcy built by BC again. And king mackerel fishing was the main reason I got that little boat, drop netting, doing what we all have evolved into doing, period. We're netting king mackerel, netting Triton croakers. And I ended up at that time, L.B. Fulcher came along, and chief in the Coast Guard at Hatteras Inlet, and he retired at 37, and we decided he needed a hand pound netting, him and Lynn Oden. Lynn didn't last long at it. He decided it wasn't for him. Anyway, L.B. and myself teamed up and went pound netting, and I did that for 8 years, during the summer. And by that time, I got another boat. I named it the Sea Band. I was over pound netting. I was over the same. So it was just too much work, and too much work involved on land. And
with the pound netting,
you were forever mending them. You were getting steaks, and as I was mentioning before, my father told me I was going to starve to death. Well, there were so many more opportunities as when I was coming along than when his parents were doing it, and it wasn't just long hauling and pound netting.
Right.
We had king mackerel, we had drop netting with with electronics, it would actually help you find them. Interestingly enough, when I first started drop netting, I did it with Tracy Austin and Ivy Austin. We're on the little boat, the boat that Shelton had, and we're all three going at it. And Ivy said, "We don't need a bottom machine. I can smell them." Well, we all figured out Ivy had sinuses that month because we starved to death until we finally got us a bottom machine. And when we did that, the first day we had about 35 boxes, and I've tried